Today is really exciting. Something very important I want to share with you. Something crucial to my development. And I think it'll really shine a light on your life. Change my life. I know it'll change yours. And a lot of this has to do with the story I haven't told you. Maybe you've seen it before in my darkness. That's partially true. A lot of it is. But I believe this is the fundamental stuff. The really deep questions I had. The desires I had ever since I was a little boy. Things that were so me I knew all along. I've been sick the last couple days, and I'm honestly grateful to God for that. It slowed me down, sat me down, and allowed me to face what I really need to face. I really want to share that with you. I want to share how significant it is to have periods of your life to where you slow down, to where you sit down, to where you dive deep, to where you start to connect to what's really you, and start to let go of all of those habits that you've picked up over your life. The things that set you free. Probably wondering what this is. I'm just going to burn it up because it smells nice. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with the content of the videos at this point. Today's going to be really, really important because it's actually one of the biggest issues that we have nowadays, and it goes across the board in all areas of your life. What drove me my whole life is the desire for love. Now, you're probably like, well, that drives me too. This is a very deep question to ask yourself. What is love? I remember even as a little kid, if there was a girl I liked, I'd write her a note or something and blush, turn another kind of color. Who I was as a teenager was not that. I also remember how much people would tell me that that's not real. And so then you hear that, real. What's real? And that's still what drives me. Reality, the desire to find what's true. That's what lights me up. And sometimes our deepest desires feel like some of the grandest fantasies. That's exactly what you need to find what's true in those fantasies. So I want to bring up the story of Joseph, and I'll go ahead and tie it into my story. Joseph is the youngest of 12, or the second youngest of 12. He's a dreamer. I think anybody who's had a family, don't do this. And of course, this is what he does. He is of the most favored of all of his sons. Of the loved wife Joseph was born to. He goes up to his family and he goes, hey guys, here's my messianic dream, where I'm the star, and it's shining real bright. And you guys are all surrounding my star with the sun and the moon. The next dream, get the kids together. Get the family together. Let me share it with them. I promise this will end well. Gets the brothers together and he shares, my sheaf was standing in the middle, as all of your sheaves were bowing to mine. 11 others. Of course, the brothers go about doing what brothers do, and his father says, hey, Joseph, go investigate your brothers. So he gets up and he walks all the way to where his brothers are, and of course, the brothers conspire to kill him because of their envy. They throw him in the pit. They look at him and they go, what's become of your dreams now, boy? You know, it's a deep dialogue that we all have with ourselves. What's become of your dreams now when the people you love turn their back on you? When you share those dreams, when you open up? Well, let's see what becomes of those dreams. Are they delusion? Are they real? Well, we'll find out. So, from one pit to the next, to working as a servant in Potiphar's house, to then having Potiphar's wife throw yourself onto you as you're thrown into another pit. Not for a couple years, for 13 years. Where are your dreams now, boy? 13 years go by, he interprets a few dreams. Those dreams that he interpreted because he is a dreamer at the fundamental essence of what we all are. He's brought up to Pharaoh, and on his knees he interprets Pharaoh's dream. And of course, the one that could, reveal the secrets changes their name. And so he went from Joseph to Osnat Paneah. In English, it means revealer of secrets. Fundamentally, there's a lot about us that is discovered through these dreams, and sometimes a lot of our deepest desires feel like dreams that we want to manifest. So I want to tell you the story of my life, and giving you the understanding of the Joseph story, I deeply relate to it. I never thought of it until now, but I can see a lot of how that shines a light on me. I am the youngest of my brothers. And I want you guys to not only just listen to what I have to say, but also be able to see that this is true for you too. If you're listening to this, something about me you connect with. And I want to break those projections too, because I'm just like you. We wouldn't find any relatability if I wasn't. Maybe I'm the ideal that you want to be, or the person that you are that you want to come closer with. But at the end of the day, we're all humans, and that's what brings us together. What really drove me as a young boy was love. And then after people criticize that and judge it enough, you question whether real love exists. And that's a journey in and of itself. But if you want to know the one thing that I wanted to be like, was like everyone else. Nothing drove me more than this deep insecurity of trying to hide who I am. I wanted to be like everyone else. Growing up, if you want to know something about my mother and my father used to be a Hollywood actor, and he was in a very popular TV show called General Hospital for years. He amassed a lot of fame and fortune. My mother was a bohemian hippie, a Moroccan bohemian hippie that moved out to Los Angeles. And my father's a very interesting character, a very intense figure, a powerful figure, a leader, a genius, an excellent mind, a very present individual. My mother is embodied the feminine in every way possible. Genius in her own emotions and her capacity. She knows what she is, and there's so much greatness in that, who she is. Of course, but she had her own existential crises, and my dad, being the guy he is, was more than likely pulled to somebody that's driven by truth. Now, my father was never a Jew. My mother was born Jewish, but not religious, so she married a non-Jew. And in Jewish culture, it's not a great thing to do. It just shows you how disconnected you are from the values. Years go by, struggling marriage, a hard home to build, because my dad is like, you know what? He already had 2 children from a previous marriage, and this one's falling apart just like every other one. And he said, well, I guess better to keep her around. My mother always loved my father because he was such an honest man. Even when he was a silverback gorilla made of steel, she saw that he had a heart with his children, and he said the truth always. And I think a lot of us think, how can you build with somebody? And it's like, well, be very simple. It's who they are, not just what they identify with. There's no shortage of people that identify with things, and that's weak, that's empty, that doesn't get anybody anywhere. But they both had a deep, deep desire for truth and what was right, who they were and what they needed to do for the highest possible purpose. So my father converts to Judaism, partially for his own journey. My mother was somebody who inspired him because she led by example. She never asked him, not a day in her life. She never said, I need you to be Jewish. She started upholding her own standard. She wanted more children. After their first son together, they had another shortly after. Well, 7 years later. And that was my older brother, one of my mentors in so many ways. God bless him. I'll share a lot about him in this, because that man really helped me in my life. He really helped me in my life with so many things. He helped me use my brain. He helped me show me how to solve problems. And I couldn't do that for the life of me. Parents become super religious. My father converts to Judaism. My whole household is a different kind of house. It's a kosher home, abbreviations. My parents are closer together than they ever have been. My mother wants more children. They have my older brother, followed by another boy after that, who shortly passes away, followed by twins. I'm the youngest of those twins, and my older brother Dan is also an hour older than me. Some would say that he's not older, he's my twin, but I respect the hour difference. It shines a light on where I am, and understanding that for myself. Growing up, you don't know how your parents were before. You just see how they present themselves, and they become exactly that, but you become so confused about who you are. And I was the youngest of 7 boys, horny like a silverback gorilla, and emotionally intuitive like my mother, but I couldn't see these things. So I was put in Orthodox Jewish school. And if you guys want to know something about me, I had my sideburns that you grow out and curled up, and put the yarmulke in the middle of the head, and that was my life. Yet my parents were so unique. I used to think they were just like everybody else in the community, because that's who I was hanging out with. I was hanging out with everybody else. I grew up till about 6th grade, and my parents sit me down and they go, hey, Naftali, Dan, the list of my other brothers, you've been lied to. Everything that you're learning in school is a complete and total catastrophe, and actually the exact opposite of what we agreed to set you up with. You know what happens to a kid when they hear that? And everybody has that moment when they're a kid. It can create traumas, complex traumas too. Traumas to where you start looking for control, but even in your own value system. And that was for me personally. I started looking for control even in my own value system. There was fear, it hit. Parents arguing every day about what's the truth, what's right. This institution is lying to us. It's not following exactly what we believed it was following. It's not the word of God. It's not the truth. I'm, of course, there, taken out of school. I didn't have any friends. I am the youngest of 7 brothers. I don't have any sisters. I see my mother in panic and fight or flight every day, and I see my father trying to hold all of this together in the midst of it. One of my older brothers is overseas, somebody I looked at as a hero, and he's now so far away from me. And of course, they're saying, hey, it's because of the institutional thing that this happened. So I'm grabbing the back of my hair, but I didn't even know how to express those kind of emotions as a kid, so I just let it turn out how it did, which was survival. Hiding. My biggest dream of being like everyone else is now starting to be shattered. It's becoming further away from me. As I grow up to become a teenager, another side note is that my whole life, women were not part of it. They were not part of it. It was hang out with the guys, go to an all-boys Jewish school, hang out with the guys, and even if you're at the all-boys Jewish school, remember the girls are in another level, so you have to go upstairs if you want to see them, and And then if you actually want to start seeing the other girls, well, then they separate them from schools once you're in high school. And so there creates this like burning scarcity around that. And that was a lot of what shaped me. And again, that now compounded with the complex trauma of what I need to identify with, what are my beliefs, what are my values, what is true. Ooh, big question to have when it comes on your lap when you're 10 years old, coming out of 6th grade. Me and my brother would climb the tree. We would just do something, my dad would be like, hey, read these books, you're homeschooled, but all we'd really see is our parents argue. And that opened up a door for pornography, and that was a whole catastrophe because, my experience with women, not only not having them in my life, the first time I experienced them was on the basis of porn. And that'll mess you up big time. I know, crazy, come a long way. That's exactly what I really want to share, is that you guys can come an even long way yourself. It's just a question of your willingness and your intention and the courage that you have in your life. So I grew up and become a teenager, a very rebellious one. The one person I hated most, my mother. So yes, classic mommy issues. My biggest desire was how I can be like the rest of the world, how I can hide. I want to go to prom. I want to be the high school jock. I want to be the guy that everybody goes, hey, there he is, here comes trouble. A lot of this nature started to manifest as I got older. When I was 15 was when I really started to have a lot of resentment, not only towards my parents, but towards the institution I was put in. Sure, I wasn't in the Jewish schools, but I was still part of the Jewish community. My rebellious nature existed, and this is something I really want to speak to you guys about, which is the importance of that rebel. But the rebel with a cause, the rebel with intention, the rebel with belief, the revolutionary who's successful brings peace. I was 16 years old, just started going out to parties, meeting girls. Ooh, starting to feel a lot like I'm becoming like everyone else. I'm becoming the thing that I need to be. Finally, I could survive. I can get what I needed. One of the biggest things that really messed me up when I was younger is hey, if I'm not part of the community, if I'm not part of the schools, they have a status quo of how things work, right? And so being an individual comes at a cost, right? If I'm not part of their system, then I have to be something that exists without the system, someone of true faith. And of course, I'm the most rebellious, I'm the least agreeable, I don't agree with what the things are saying, and here's how it goes. A lot of me, I guess, was developed because of an understanding of embracing my life for its unordinary. It's not like anyone else's. It's not a normal life, and that's the lie that I wanted to believe because it could keep me comfortable. I remember I was invited to this Jewish seminar of sorts where they were talking about don't speak or touch to girls until you're married. And I look around, all I see is a bunch of horny men. And I get up and I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where does it say you can't touch girls? Actually, where does it say you can't sleep with them? Because of course there's one thing I loved, and it was women. And the revolutionary, although he may come from a wrong place, or he may say the wrong things at times, he may fight the wrong battles, but do you really believe in what you fight for? Where you're coming from? Is it good? Is it coming from a place that's genuine, sincere, driven, true? And I remember I tell the rabbi, I was like, hey, show me where that is, where you can't. And of course, anybody who's challenged any institution or any authority knows how this goes. You're alienated. And so of course he couldn't show me that. And I get up and I go, I could tell you actually the exchange. I go, hey, where does it say that? He goes, well, it's actually a fence that we later came up with that says that. And I said, well, wait, can you show me in the Bible, in the Torah, where it says those exact words? Or is this just your self-referencing system? Of course, very emotional 16-year-old. Hardly ever read books. And that was partially part of my development, is that I was so invested in reality and my ability to play with it. Didn't have social media at the time. That was when I started becoming more like everyone else, is when I became hooked on that. I eventually looked the rabbi in the eyes and I said, hey, so what you're telling me is that when people are ready according to how you say ready is, then you'll set them up with girls that you have access to after separating them from boys their whole life. You're telling me this is going to end well? Is this a pimping system? And at 16, I'm quite vulgar, quite rebellious. The school gasps. I walked out. And I guess that was the beginning of me realizing, if I want the things that I want in my life, I'm going to have to be the difference. There's nothing fun about that, realizing that you have true desires, things that you really want. And, you look out on the world and, well, that's all there is. And so I became afraid. I said, hey, if I'm not part of this community, I guess I'll become like the rest of the world. And so what it was finding who I can meet at the party. I put on the masks. There was no sensitivity. There was no softness. I was trying to see who I can get so that I can create that life that I wanted, that life of ordinary. Go to the high school prom, meet the pretty girls, go out with them. Maybe this will turn out well. Say the right things, get their number, go to the right party, then see the next person say the right things, get that person's number. Whew, it was like codes and bars, and feelings were never a part of my life. No, not until very recently, really. Not until I started doing this and an understanding of I could never be like anyone else. Years go by. I experienced the 21st century relationship, made me really good at understanding that there's nothing there for you, especially if you're not there for you. My whole life struggling, fighting and fighting until eventually I could just find my way out. And it was in this one relationship that I was in 2019 into 2020. I was 20 years old and I found her blank like a white sheet of paper. She could be everything that I need to hide all of what I am. Every day of my life I rejected my parents. They're too much. They're too intense. Why can't they just be normal? I looked in the mirror and I said, why do you feel this? Why do you feel that? Why can't you just be normal? I look around and I go, in fact, actually be like everyone else. Oh, love is there. Look, they're meeting each other. What about you? Are we alone? Criticism, criticism, criticism. So much of me rejecting myself. A little bit before that, I graduated my high school homeschool situation. It's a homeschool charter school program. I don't know how to put it. I then go to college and I just said for the first time, I'm done passing tests. And I don't know if you guys want to know this about me. My whole life, I believed I was an idiot. That was another product of my survival. Wasn't be smart, look smart. I'll get you further. And yet you'd be shocked how many people are fooled by looking smart. I didn't remember anything in high school. I couldn't even pronounce mitochondria right. I said mitochondria, and I'd get an A+ on a test. I remembered 5 pages of Spanish that I don't even remember to this day, but hey, it got me an A+. Even my teacher called me out on my bullshit. I didn't care. I needed to learn how to survive. And that's been my whole life. How to survive. Being like others is the best form of survival in a world where the fat people are broke and there's broke people looking rich. Like, think about that. You better start being real. There's a lot of necessity for it. Speaking of my older brother, throughout this point in my life, he was somebody who I'd cry to when trying to learn how to do math. I'd beg him and he'd be acing everything. He had like a computer brain. Every single thing that I had a problem with, he was amazing at. Practicing piano, I was hated. I hated my piano teacher. I hated my mother. I had so much emotion and I didn't know what to do with it. And it just ultimately felt like, I was better out there conquering the world than I was in the own confinements of my home. Anytime I brought a girl home, my mother would have so much to say about her. And of course, that'd make me hate her more. I'd make women these deification of something that they weren't so that I could run from myself and all of the things that I hold against women. Whole different conversation. But my brother was so essential. Somebody who, he helped me learn how to use a camera, solve a problem, use a spreadsheet, develop a website, those kind of things he was excellent at, and I had no ability there. I believed I was stupid, I couldn't do math, I could pass tests. I had this imposter that was dragging around with me everywhere. Sure, I graduated at 16 because I really wanted to get out so I could go to college, and that's what everybody believes is their dream. And as I went to college, I realized, do I want to keep passing tests or do I want to learn something for the first time in my life? I remember I'm in school and I said, you know what? I don't care if I fail the test, I want to learn something. I'm in my econ class, I'm raising my hand, I'm talking with the teacher, I'm flirting with the girls, I'm teasing the classroom, I'm sharing my mind. And I said, you know what? I won't even do the homework. I just want to learn something for the first time in my life. I finished that semester, my teacher pulls me out of the room and he goes, look, there's only one reason why I'm letting you pass this class. You failed every test. But how does that make any sense? He's like, you were participating in the group. I could feel your intellect. You had curiosity, you were driven, you contributed. You had a lot to understand about econ. And I was like, well, to be honest with you, passing tests and learning things are very different. And I don't know how I'm gonna get through college if I'm trying to learn something and not pass a test. And he laughed and he goes, hey, C-, you passed. Of course, the next few semesters I realized it was biology. My God, I've taken that thing so many times just to show you the scam of high school. I felt like an idiot the whole time. Of course, raising my hand, interacting with the group, failing all the tests. Failing all the tests because now I was actually learning something. I was actually enjoying my bio lab. They were talking about human behavioral characteristics that show up in mammals. And I was like, oh, this is my shit. Let's go. I love psychology. This is all I really craved ever since I was young. And this one point in my life, I realized, I wanted to be a physical therapist when I was 22. I don't know whose idea was that. Pretty bad idea. Promise you, not what you want to start with. If it was up to me when I was 16, I'd be a garbage man. I looked at the hourly rate. That's how I determined my success. It's like, let's look at how much you can make an hour. As I go to walk to my bio lab, I walk all the way off the college campus. I walk all the way to my house. I'm 17 years old. I'm unemployed. I don't have a job. I can no longer hide behind the guises of academia as a broke individual who drinks and parties all day. But it's okay, I go to college, don't worry, it'll all be fine. I walk all the way home, I pick up my controller, I kick my feet up on the table, and I played video games for 24 hours. I realized, there's nothing I could learn here, I just better act like I know a thing or two. Became an excellent actor, definitely got it from my father. And I said, well, what do I know? I'm in good shape. I guess I could teach people how to get in shape. I like psychology, I guess I'll learn it, because, you can get a lot of control from that. My deep desire for control came from that. I like an understanding of philosophy and belief because I do believe in something beyond myself. So I always kept those things at bay. I went out every night. I trained the people that I did, increased my rate. I kept doing that for years. Experienced the 21st century relationship to realize nothing to offer there, until eventually I became 20 years old. When I was 20 years old, I met this one girl. And this is when I was able to realize my monstrous nature. She was a blank sheet of paper. I made her everything that I needed. This was my golden ticket to an ordinary life. I could be just like everyone else. I could disregard my faith, I could disregard my values, I could disregard my parents, I could disregard my family. I could hide behind the guises of the societal ideal, and I'm gonna go for it. Sure, I could have my own gym business, and I could train as many people as I can, and I could make more money than anybody else could. This was my opportunity to see, if you really want something bad enough, go for it. Are you just willing to see if it's a delusion or not? My deepest desire as a young boy was true love. Well, this is it. I'm gonna die on this hill. And I made that relationship a grand entourage to everyone that I was happy, that this is the ideal, this is what you want. Of course, years go by, or actually a year and a half goes by, and I realize everything that I am losing. I had my wish come true. Naftali, you'll be just like everyone else. Your gifts gone, your upbringing gone, your beliefs gone, your roots gone. I ended that relationship. Nearly did it, that close. I want you to think of it this way. If there was a switch to where I could die, I would have switched it. And this had nothing to do with the relationship. The relationship was just the sum total of all of my pursuits and their emptiness. It was the pursuit of somebody who was driven to be like everyone else, not driven to be himself with purpose. And there was that switch. And I'll tell you how I used to live my life. And it's how you live your life and how you live your life and how every single person on planet Earth lives their life until they wake up to an understanding of why it's important to be themselves, to be real, to be truthful, to discover why you're here, to what's true. You want to know what it is? Well, here it is. I was praying for death. Everything in my life was in opposition of who I am, and I couldn't wait to check all the boxes, and after I did, there was nothing to experience. I wanted to go. That's the way a majority of people live their lives. They live their lives as a life of quiet misery as they check a bunch of boxes, and after they do, they go, did it now, I'm ready for heaven. They're living for a life that's not even this one. You really want to see a philosophy? See how much they believe in heaven in relationship to what's reality, which is right in front of them. It'll show you a lot about them. Most people's whole faiths and belief systems exist in rejection of who they are. And they wonder that this is going to turn out well. I promise you, if your whole life is about a rejection of who you are so that you could be seen a certain way to everybody else, you are living to die. And at 21 years old, I realized that for the first time in my life. Being gaslit in the kitchen, I remember this whole conversation talking about how if she said the right things, I'd be with her. But I realized my greatest nightmare was starting to become true. All of who I am was dying. I was erasing it every second I stayed there. Through the grace of God, I leaped for that switch of death, that switch of I want to erase everything that I am. There's too much responsibility in that. There's too much personal in that. I'll be seen by the world. I'll be rejected by everyone as I am. And as I sprint for that switch, it was like I got shot by a shotgun before I could reach that. I know a lot of us go, oh, well, that's too bad. You were so close. No, it's called divine intervention. It saved my life. I was this close to staying with my ex. Do you want to know what saved me? God. Because it's the only thing that could answer these kind of questions. Something was guiding me in my life, and for the first time I could experience it. It was funny, I was actually losing my hair in the relationship. And that was like a big indicator of like, oh God, this is killing me. We were having this argument, we realized we weren't compatible, that this wouldn't work, progressively getting worse and worse, until eventually her father gives me a call and her father goes, you son of a bitch, I'm gonna f***ing kill you. Do you want to know when he gave me that call? When I took my dad's car back from my own home that I shared with this girl, and I drove it all the way back to my house. When I got back to my house, I looked for my keys. And I'm like, where are they? So I'm like, I need to call my brother. By the way, I had nothing left. I felt as weak as I ever felt in my life. I look at my phone, one voice note, girlfriend's father. Listen to it. You I'm gonna kill you. What are you doing to my daughter? Something. I realized I've only taken care of that girl, although I had my insufficiencies. I never mistreated her. I drive back like I'm in Batman Begins, vein popping out of my arm. I get all the way to the house. I park the car. I open the door and I look at her and I go, oh, he's calling me. On speaker, starts cursing at me. And I go, what are you telling your family? She goes, I love you, Naftali, but I could, in that moment, I felt it. I saw her mask come off. I saw reality slow down. I saw an A or B option for the first time in my life. A, embrace the lie. Eat of the fruit. B, live a life as true as you can. As much as that hurts, it's the only thing that matters. Make the highest possible commitment to the highest good and let that transform you. I could see the sweat on my forehead zoomed in to 100x. I could hear a tree fall in a forest all the way out in Indonesia. Something resided in me. It was the commitment that I made for the rest of my life that I could never be like anyone else. And in fact, every time I do, not only do I hurt myself, I hurt the people I love most. That is the beginning of my story. I said goodbye. I'm going to grab everything that I need in the next 10 minutes and you'll never see me again. What do you think I was saying goodbye to, ladies and gentlemen? I was saying goodbye to the part of myself that died to be like everyone else. The next year, I started transforming instantly. I started looking at my parents, embracing they're not ordinary. I started looking at myself, realizing that I'm not ordinary. I started looking at my life and what exactly it aimed towards up to this point. And I realized that through an accepting that everything in my life is different and not the same, and that I'm not supposed to be the same. I got to see how extraordinary my parents are, how extraordinary I am, the gifts that I have, and what I need to do with my life. Real love is on the other side of you being real. Just remember that.